Alright, so without further ado, let's get started with today's video, which is basically just how to craft the best weapons and the armor. But yeah, we're going to probably make this two parts. This part right here, I'm going to cover armor because I have more knowledge with armors. So we're going to start with the armors. And I believe there's a lot more to talk about with the armors as well. So without further ado, let's actually get started with today's video. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe and join our Discord for the giveaways that we will potentially be doing. So let's get started with the armors. So before I start, actually, let me just say that we are only going to talk about the end game in today's video. I'm not going to talk about actually the mid game and the end game. I'm not really going to talk about the beginning stages, you know, the best armor for beginners. I'm really just mainly going to talk about people that already have some decent ores. So without further ado, let's actually get started with them. So basically, most of the ores that I'm using on mine is basically just going to be this one's right here. So I'm mainly using ore, lightite, and then uranium, and then mithril. So the reason why I'm using this combination is because it doesn't take an arm and a leg and a lung and a heart and a kidney in order to create them. I basically don't need to be spending the rest of my days rotting at my computer screen trying to get darkite and demonite. Although darkite and demonite are incredibly overpowered, it is way too expensive and way too RNG based for you to efficiently get them at this current point in time. So my main recommendation is for you to start just basically focusing on ore, lightite, uranium, and mithril, and save your darkite or demonite for those weapons, because weapons are significantly cheaper to craft. So I believe it's better to save darkite and demonite for weapons instead of armors, because some armors will require you to have more than 10 of those ores, so I don't really think it's worth it to have a darkite or demonite. So these are the ores that I'm using. So let's actually go and talk about what most of them do. And for that, I'll pull up the Forge calculator. So this is a really great app that you guys should use if you want to be able to get the best armors, and it's really great as a calculator as well. Basically what you could do is select armor and then with armor traits, and this will basically separate the ones that has a trait. So you have poopite, obsidian, uranium, mithril, ore, lightite, demonite, and darkite. So what demonite does is essentially deals 20% of fire damage. Okay, demonite is actually does not do anything, or actually does do something for weapons or armors, if I heard correctly. From what I heard, this actually does something for armors as well, but this is essentially the trait. For darkite, I believe it is upon taking damage, there's a 15% chance to turn into a shadow and dodge the attack, which is incredibly overpowered. For lightite, it's basically 15% extra movement speed. Ore, increase physical damage by 15 and decrease health by 10%. So some people are probably going to say, oh, decrease health by 10%. Well, the reason why this doesn't really matter that much is because you can easily counter this by adding mithril ore. So mithril ore will give you 15% extra health, which will cancel the vitality debuff of ore. Sorry, yeah, the health debuff of ore, but also keep the damage debuff of ore. That's why you have to keep mithril in your combination, mainly for this reason right here. You don't want to have minus 10% health because I believe that's a bit too much. So that's why those two combos are pretty important. Uranium is actually pretty nice because it deals 5% of your max health as AoE damage while in combat. So what that kind of does is essentially allows you to basically deal damage to enemies, sort of like this right here. So they're taking some damage. You guys can see right there, they're dying. This is incredibly useful, especially, you know, if you have high vitality. I could actually even do this to some enemies in, you know, this area right here. So for example, this elite attack skeleton, I'm gonna let him hit me right here. You guys can see that he is actually dying from purely the uranium alone. So that is actually how useful the uranium is. So incredibly useful to, you know, deal some extra damage while you're hitting your enemies or while you're parrying them. So it's pretty good. Now lightite will... Okay, so next one's obsidian, which will give you 30% extra health. But the problem with this is its multiplier is pretty low. Poopite will give you 15% poison damage in AoE for 5 seconds, which will fear enemies. The problem here is that its multiplier is very low. The reason why I don't use poopite or obsidian, despite them having very nice you know, traits, is because their multiplier is very low. Now what the multiplier does is essentially the multiplier will be what will dictate the base stat of your armor. From what I remember, that's how it works. It will dictate the base stat of your armor. So for that reason alone, I'm only going to use Lightite, Ior, Mithril, and Uranium, mainly because these have decent multipliers while also having very, very good traits. I don't use Demonite and Darkrai again because they're super expensive. Now, okay, let's start and move on to the next one, which are some of the recipes are actually pretty nice. All right, we're gonna start with the helmets. So for me, I always use Ior mainly because I like the way that Ior looks like. You could use Mithril, you could use Lightite as well. Lightite, by the way, is the most expensive ore here. So I use Ior as the most highest one, because it's the one that I want the most. And by the way, you can also check here in the Forge which amount of recipe is, or how many ores is optimal. So for heavy helmet, it's 26. So you would ideally want to have 26 ores. Now, since Lightite is incredibly expensive, you could actually reduce Lightite to 4 and increase Mithril to 8 as well. Now, the reason why this is pretty good is because this will ensure that your Mithril will give you 15% extra health, thus giving you more HP. So this is a pretty good combination for helmet as well. I believe this might actually be the best for helmet, but Lightite movement speed is also pretty nice. And yeah, that's pretty much that for helmet. Let's move on to heavy leggings. Now for heavy leggings, it's an optimal of 30 ores. Now the thing that I've learned with heavy leggings is that it's actually really, really annoying to get them, right? It's very annoying to get them. And if I were you, I would actually start crafting heavy armor first. But I'll talk about heavy leggings first. Now for heavy leggings, you could do something like this: 10, 10, 5, 5 with 10 Ior, 10 Mithril, 10 Lightite, 10 Uranium. Because with this, you will have 30% in Ior and Mithril, thus you will still be able to get their full buff. You'll be able to get the full physical damage buff of Ior, and you'll still be able to get the full health buff of Mithril, which will cancel out the health debuff of Ior. And also, you still have really decently high multipliers here because you still have 5 Lightite, and having 5 Lightite will actually still allow you to have, a decent amount of extra movement speed. Uranium at a 5 Uranium will still allow you to have a deal 2% of max health as AoE damage while in combat. Still pretty decent right there. And I think this one's actually pretty simple as well. This will give you a 50% chance of crafting a heavy leggings. Problem here actually is that crafting a heavy leggings is actually also going to give you a decent chance of crafting a heavy helmet, heavy chestplate, or a medium chestplate. So if you're very unlucky, oftentimes you are actually going to get the heavy helmet instead of getting the heavy leggings, right? So sometimes you'll even get the medium chestplate. That happened to me twice actually. So in my opinion, you should save the heavy leggings for last, because the next one we're going to talk about is going to be the heavy armor. Now for heavy armor or heavy chestplate, the optimal one there is going to be 40 ores. The best one that you can do is something like this. So something like this is actually the most efficient one, mainly because you are only spending 40 ores right here. There's probably some other better combos right there, but the reason why I went for something like this is because I still wanted to keep my Ior, buff, but you could actually easily flip this and get Mithril higher. Now, the reason why I had mine with higher Ior is because I wanted to maintain this set. I wanted to have the Ior set, right? So here you have the option of either doing high Ior or higher Lightite as well. So you could actually give reduce Ior and then increase Lightite. That would actually be pretty decent as well. Or if you want to, you could reduce Ior and increase Mithril. But in my opinion, the best one is to just follow this right here. Mainly because when I did this for myself and managed to get the Dark Knight chestplate, I actually managed to get I think, 196 base defense armor. This one right here, it was 196 base defense, which is some of the highest one in the game without having to use Darkrai or Demonite. So 196 is incredibly overpowered. This is how tanky I am currently. I could literally stand here and not die to the axe skeleton. Now, after the ores and the recipe, I'm gonna show you guys another more important thing, and it's enhancements. You have to at least enhance your weapons to a decent amount. You will see right here the base defense of my Ior is 137, but it's upgraded into 186 because of enhancements. For my Dark Knight Chestplate, it's 196, enhanced to 165 because of my enhancements. For my normal eye or leggings, or for my Dark Knight eye or leggings, it's 148 base to 192 total defense because of enhancements. So enhancements will actually increase your defense by a considerable amount. So make sure that you have a lot of cash and that you have a lot of essences in order to enhance your armors to at least 2 rune slots, right? Now, 2 rune slots is, if you once you enhance it to here, I think that's the max. You also want to be able to have at least 2 rune slots because you want to be able to put in as much runes as possible. Now, with runes, I'm going to make a separate video about this, mainly because runes are a topic and it's pretty big, mainly because this is where most of your build will come in, right? So for runes, sometimes you can be tanky but slow, but sometimes you can be really, really fast to where you're just blitzing your enemies. So for example, I want to show you guys how fast I am right now. This is how fast I am. And by the way, I could be faster if I put in my speed build runes. And this is how much slower I am without my armor. You'll see right here, boom. Look at the difference right here with the armor, right? It's so much slower than when I had my armor, because my armor has light height and my armor also has the runes that increase movement speed. So I'll talk about that in a different video, but if you guys enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to leave a like down below. This is, in my opinion, the best ores right now, and the reason why it's the best the best armors right now. I think this is the best armors right now. The reason why that is because you don't have to use Darkbright or Demonite in this build, and you'll still be able to get a decent enough defense to where you're not going to die in a few shots. And obviously, if you want Darkbright and Demonites, I maybe could make another video about the absolute best, but it genuinely is too hard to actually get those. So that's pretty much it for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.